Are you tired of the normal and traditional garden designs? Or simple, you just want to create a tranquil oasis? Dive in today's video because we're gonna go step by step in how we can create and design our own Zen garden. If you are struggling to visualize a Zen garden or you don't know how to do it, in today's video we're gonna use AutoCAD to draft it from concept idea till a professional 2D CAD plan layout. This is the image that we're gonna take as a source of inspiration, and based on this, we're gonna develop all the basic principles of a Zen garden. A Zen garden is about calm, serenity, and minimalistic design. It feels really well on modern life because a Zen garden requires low maintenance and works well in urban spaces, bringing daily moments to stillness. AutoCAD gives me precision. I can set up dimensions, I can realize how big are the elements, and I can make proportions so we get the results that we want. It also lets me export to 3D software and quantify materials. AutoCAD is an excellent tool for anyone who is willing to draft any kind of design, and in today's video we're gonna do it for our Zen garden. We're gonna talk about now about the brief requirements for our client in today's Zen garden. We're looking to have, as Miss Van der Rohe one time said, less is more. We're gonna focus on having only the element items that are fundamental for a Zen garden. We're gonna have lantern, we're gonna have a water feature, we're going to have decorative stones, we're going to have 2 seats, and footpaths with the stone paving and rolled gravel surfacing. That's it, let's get started. The first thing that I'm going to do is going to bring our source of inspiration as an xRef to our model space. For doing that, I'm going to type xRef, and then I'm going to go to this top left corner, attach image, and I'm going to select Zen Garden Visual. I'm going to put it right here, so we have it there next to us to keep drafting. If you are not familiar with xRefs, or if you want to know everything about them, go and check my video, the card is appearing just right there, where I explain step by step what is an xRef, how you can use them, and why do they work. The first thing that we're going to do is we are going to create our side boundary. For doing that, I'm going to go to layers, and I'm going to create a new layer. This layer is going to be called base underscore side boundary. I'm going to change the color of the side boundary to a darker gray, probably 251. Then I am going to make it current, and I'm going to draw a rectangle. For doing that, I am going to use polyline tool, press PL on the keyboard, and then I'm going to go south 8400, and then I'm going to go 6000 wide, then I'm going to extension, and then I am going to type close to close the polyline. This is going to be our side boundary where we're going to develop all of our design. Let's align this with our image just to have everything nice and neat. And now I'm going to create some guides that we're going to use as modulation. We're going to go to layers again, and I'm going to create a new layer that is going to be called base underscore modulation guides. In this layer, I am going to use a different line type, and this one is going to be this cut dash line right here. Press OK and make it current. And now I'm going to create a new polyline, and this polyline is going to come from here up to here, and then I'm going to move it 1200 millimeters to the right. I am going to select the polyline that we just draw. As you can see, the dash line is quite small because the scale of the line, so we want to make this line scale a bit bigger. I am going to select the line, press properties, and here where it says line type scale, I'm going to change this number to, let's try 150. That's probably too big. Let's try 50, and yeah, I think 50 works well. And now let's copy this line from this point up to this point, up to this point, up to this point. That gives us a 1200 millimeters modulation, and then we're gonna do the same in the horizontal side. So type polyline again, This time I'm gonna drag my extension from this endpoint to the north, and I am going to type 1200. Press enter, and then let's go to the right and drag the extension as well. For making this line to be the same scale as this one, we can match the properties from the other one, so type MA for matching the properties, and you want to match the properties from this line up to this line. That trick will avoid us going into the properties panel and changing it manually. And now we're gonna make a copy of that one, selected from here. Today we're gonna show you an array copy, so while you're copying it, you're gonna press A, and you want to tell the software that you want 8 copies to the north to 1200 millimeters. It gives us 2 extras, so this one and this one I'm gonna delete it. And based on this grid is where we are going to design of our garden. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to define which is going to be the hard surface and which is going to be the soft areas. In this case, as you can see, all of this is hard, which is rolled gravel material with these beautiful slabs. And also here we have like a different type of gravel. So the first thing that we're going to do is to define this perimeter edge with all the planting. For doing that, I'm gonna go back to I'm gonna create a new layer that is gonna be called base_basic. And on this basic layer is where everything is going to sit. I am going to change the line type to continuous, and I'm gonna choose a lighter color, probably 254 will work well. Press OK and make it current. We're gonna use 1.2 meters of planter on this side, so that's gonna be planter, and on this side we're gonna use the same up to this part. As we can see, we have a little bit of gravel here, so that area of gravel is gonna be 1.5 modules. Draw a diagonal from here up to here so we can get the midpoint, and from that midpoint we're gonna extend up to here and up to here. Then we can delete and we can create another polyline to go from that point up to here. Then we're gonna trim this bit right here, and I am going to change the color of my guides to be a darker gray, probably this black, and also I am going to lock that layer so we don't move it, we don't touch it, and anything happens to it. As we said before, this square modulation is 1.2 meters, and the landing from the house, we're gonna pretend that the house is right here, and actually we're gonna draw it just as a... So let's pretend that the house extends up to this part and also from this point, and we're gonna apply all the landing just as you step out of the house right here. So for doing that, I'm gonna extend this line up to here, and probably this should be slightly bigger. Let's move it 600 north, and then let's trim this part right here. Let's extend this line so this gravel area is still on that same place. It seems that maybe we will need to reduce the size of the planters, so let's move that 600 to the side, and let's move this one 600 as well, so that will give us a little bit more of a space. The next step that we're going to do is we're just gonna roughly draw the size of these benches to have a better sense of the scale of the space. So for doing that, I'm gonna type polyline, and these benches are going to be 1200 per 400. Drag the extension and close. This is gonna be one of the benches, which is gonna be probably somewhere here. We want a little bit of space between the bench and the planting, probably half of the module, so we're gonna put it right here. And then the other bench is gonna be in the other side, just in this point right here. As you can see, this is starting to have a little bit more of proportion. We also have a little bit of grass strip right here, so let's define that shape now. Probably from this point up to here, so that bit is gonna be only grass. We're gonna tweak the design a little bit. We're not gonna do it identical, slightly enhanced result. And now let's move the benches a little bit more north. So select both benches and let's move them 600 to the north. And now we can move gravel area up to here. So we have all these with gravel, and then this is gonna be planter. On the back we're gonna need more space for the big trees. This is gonna be Pinus mugo, this is gonna be a Japanese maple, and we're gonna talk about all the species and all of the specification in the next part of the video. For now we're only drafting, so let's create another line, drag the extension 600, and let's close it right here. Now use trim to trim this line, and that gives us the rough proportion of the garden, where all of this is gonna be planting and where all this is gonna be hard surface. Now we're gonna start adding these details. I think I'm gonna move this line a little bit more to the north, right here, and then I am going to extend this bit right here and this bit right here. The next step that we're going to do is we're gonna add all these curves that are here on the back. For doing that, I'm gonna type polyline again, and I'm gonna get the polyline from this point. I'm gonna type arc inside the polyline, and then I am going to select second point right here. I am going to deactivate ortho, and I am also gonna deactivate the snaps, and I'm gonna start drawing organic shape that looks similar to our source of image, something like that. Here is where the water feature and the lantern are going to be. Here I'm gonna bring the snaps back, and I'm going to drag this point somewhere here. Now I am going to press trim, and I'm going to trim here, and I am going to trim here. So we have this organic shape sitting at the back, and for fixing this sharp point, I am going to type fillet command, and then I am going to change the radius by typing R on the keyboard to 600. I am going to select this line and this one. That is going to give us a soft transition between this straight part and the curvy bit. And the same I'm going to do here with this point and that point. So it creates a perfect tangent. Now that we have this basic plan that shows which bits of the garden are going to be soft and which bit of the gardens are going to be hard surface, we're going to start to add a little bit more of detail. We're going to start by drawing these stone pavings right here, and for doing that I'm going to just create a line from here, another line from here, and I think we need less hard surface on that bit, so we're going to bring back this line from this point up to this point, and I'm going to trim right here, and I am going to extend this up to here, then delete this line, and let's bring part of the planter 600 down, and let's extend this right here. That gives us a better proportion on the gravel. From the north 600 right here, I'm going to get an extension, then I am going to create a copy of this. Now I am going to delete this line, so that gives us a little bit of geometry on the floor with a full slab and then two slabs here. Now I'm gonna reposition these benches a little bit. I'm gonna move them to the south somewhere here, and I am going to create these stone slabs that give your way up to the water feature. For doing this, I'm going to do a rectangle, and this rectangle is going to be 600 by 600. Press enter, and now I'm going to play a little bit with these slabs to see which type of arrangement gives us a better looking. So I'm going to move this slab from this point up to here, and then I'm going to make a copy of it from this point up to this point, and maybe here, another one here, and another one, probably put it here, put another one somewhere here, and let's get another one, and let's manually move it from this point up to this point, and here we're gonna have another one. Probably this last slab can be slightly bigger, just to break a little bit the continuity, So we're going to scale it 1.2, slightly bigger. Let's see what's the dimension after scaling it 1.2. It's gonna be 720, which breaks all the modulation. So probably manually, I am just gonna draw one that is 900, 900. So we keep ourselves on the same type of modulation. And I'm just gonna put it a little bit separated from the other one right there. And then this one, I'm gonna move it 300 millimeters to the right to create a little bit of game. And that gives us the path that is approaching to the water feature. We're gonna do now the water feature that sits right here, which is this one. For doing that, I'm gonna do a circle, and this circle is going to have 600 millimeters as the diameter. And then I am going to type offset to get an inner circle. I think the edge of this water feature is about 300. So let's type 300 for the offset. Let's make it something like that. And now let's move the water feature from this point. Press F8 to deactivate the ortho. And I think this water feature can sit just right here. Create a line from this point up to this point, and let's move the water feature precisely in the midpoint of those two modulations right here. Alright, it's looking good. The next step that we're going to do is we're gonna roughly draw these decorative stones, and for doing that I'm just gonna use polyline again, and I'm gonna roughly create them from this point. I'm going to deactivate all snaps, and also I'm going to deactivate ortho, so we have like a free style, something like that. Then press close. Then the next one is gonna sit somewhere here. It's gonna be slightly smaller. This doesn't need to be perfect. You need to be a little bit of artistic in this part, and we're gonna tweak them a little bit more further and give them a little bit more of detail. For now, we just want to get the proportion right, and we want to get all the items and requirements on site on the drawing. So let's create another one of these. For doing that, I'm gonna make a copy of this one, and this one is kind of like sit in between the garden and also in the hard surface. I'm just gonna extend it from these points to create a similar shape. Maybe here you can add another vertex, something like that. One more, open this one. And those are gonna be our stones for now. The next step and the next feature that we need to add is this lantern right here. For doing that lantern, the first thing that I'm gonna create is the basement. So the basement is gonna be 400 by 400. And then after I've created basement, I'm gonna create an offset that is gonna have a 50mm offset inside. And I'm going to create this top part of the lantern. I'm gonna go in this drop down menu where the rectangle tool is, and I'm gonna select a polygon. As you can see, this lantern has 1, 2, 3, 6 sides. I'm gonna type 6 for the number of sides. And then I'm gonna specify a center. So activate again the all snaps right here, and let's select this center right here. Select that the hexagon is inscribed inside the circle. That means that the hexagon is gonna be inside radius. So let's type that option. We are going to do it manually, probably something like this, and let's type 440. So we have that shape. So when we get a dimension from this point up to this point, it's about 880 in total, which is fair enough. We are going to draw this kind of feature that has on the top right here. For doing that, I'm gonna select the circle tool right here, and I'm gonna make this circle to be 60 on diameter. And just to add a bit more of detail, I'm gonna offset 20mm thing right here to the inside, and I'm gonna draw a line from this point off to the circle, then from this point off to the circle, from this point off to the circle, from this point off to the circle, and then I'm gonna type mirror command. I am going to select this line, I am going to mirror them from this point up to this point. don't delete the source of object, which is basically creating a mirror of those lines. These two guys on the bottom right here, I'm going to go to properties and I am going to change the line type to dash line. I'm going to change the scale to 2.5. That gives us the basic geometry of our lantern. And I'm going to just trim these bits right here so it feels like a little bit in a higher level. Now I'm going to select all of this lantern and I'm going to block it. I'm going to call this block lantern. I'm going to move the lantern from this point, deactivate ortho, and I'm going to put it right here. Right, so we have the lantern, we have the bench, we have the water feature, we have the decorative stones, we have the paving. Before we jump into the planting, I'm gonna just add just a little bit more of detail to all of these features. I'm gonna start with the water feature. I'm gonna draw the sink where all the water drops from. For doing that, I'm gonna press circle again, and I'm going to turn on the snaps. I'm just here on this point as a reference. I'm gonna draw 25mm circle. Then I'm gonna move it from here up to the north 300mm. Then I am going to select another line that goes from that center up to the center. Then I am going to offset that line 25mm again from here to here and to here. And I'm gonna close right here. And I'm gonna delete the central line. And I am going to fill it with a radius of 20, type fillet, then press radius to change the radius of the fillet, and let's change it to 20. Press enter, press fillet again. Now I'm going to rotate all these 45 degrees, so I am going to select it like I just did, press rotate, and from this central point right here, I'm going to rotate it 45 degrees. It was actually to the other side, so I am going to select it again, rotate, select the center point, and this time let's do -90 to go to the other side. Right, that's the place for the water feature. Now I'm gonna add a little bit more of detail to these benches right here. I'm gonna create a line from that point up to this point, and I'm gonna move it 100mm, and then I'm gonna make a copy of these ones from this point up to this point up to this point. And I am going to do the same on these benches right here. I am going to create an offset from this from these stone slabs, so the gravel can flow in between. For doing that, I'm going to select offset, and I am going to offset those slabs 50mm each. So this one is going to come like that. This one is going to go 50mm inside, 50mm inside. And I am going to delete now the outer slabs like this, so all the gravel can flow the joints. And with these ones right here, I am going just to create rectangles so we can offset them. So create a rectangle right here, create a rectangle and a rectangle. And this time I'm going to offset them only 5mm, a 10mm light in between. And then I am going to delete all the lines that I don't need, like these ones right here, and that one. Also, I am going to delete this line that I don't need anymore, except for this one right here, which is really important because this part is gonna be gravel. Now let's start by adding some hatches to the hard surface. For doing this, I am going to switch off the guides, and I'm going to go to layer, lay freeze, and I'm going to freeze these guides right here. Now I'm going to create a new layer, and this layer is going to be called base underscore hardworks hatch. I'm going to select this cream color right here, and I'm going to start by hatching all these gravel surface. So I'm going to press hatch, and I'm going to click right here to hatch all of that with. And I'm gonna change the style of that hatch to something that looks like this gravel. I am gonna use that sand hatch, and I'm gonna change the scale to 10, probably to 5, so that gives us a little bit of the sense of this gravel right here. I'm gonna use another type of hatch for the gravel that we have on this part. So I'm gonna type hatch again, and I'm gonna select this square right here. This one is gonna be the same hatch, but instead of using the 5 scale, we're gonna use 2 scale, and we're gonna change the color to darker gray right here, so we can tell the difference between this material and that material. And now we're gonna come to one of the best bits of the tutorial, the planting. So which species are we going to plant here? First of all, we need to think that this garden, this Zen modern garden, is intended to be in United Kingdom. So we can pretend that for this design we are just located somewhere in London. So we need to choose a species that reflect the serenity and mindfulness of a Zen garden, but that also are going to survive in UK weather and in UK conditions. So for doing that, we're gonna start with this pine right here, which is going to be a Pinus mugo. So a Pinus mugo represents longevity and resilience. It's like our living sculpture, and it's green all the year. So for doing that, I'm gonna just right click and end my object isolation, and I have all these blocks right here that I'm gonna be using from now on the next part of the tutorial. By the way, if you're interested on these blocks and this table that we're going to use for the planting, the species, the specification, also if you're interested in this type of dimension and leaders, this file is going to be for free on my Patreon, and the link is going to be right there on the description. So feel free to use it, feel free to download it if you want to incorporate it in your projects, or if you're learning and you just want to have a template as a base. This file is going to be ready for you guys. The template also includes this A3 sheet where we're going to present all of the design at the end. So let's go back to task. And this block reference right here, I'm going to make a copy, is going to be our sculpture, our Pinus mugo. Let's rotate the Pinus mugo, something like that. And this one is going to see it probably somewhere here. We need to scale it a little bit. Let's type scale, put it probably on something like that. And also let's rotate it again. The big bit is a little bit on the corner. Yeah, so in this scale, the main canopy is about 1400, which is a very decent size. We can actually make it slightly bigger, probably somewhere up to here. It's intended that this decorative stone lies under the canopy of the Pinus mugo. So we have our first species seated right there. The next species that we're going to use in our Zen garden is going to be a Fargesia, a clumping bamboo. And for that Fargesia, I'm going to use this block right here. So again, I'm going to make a copy. I'm going to put it right here. This clumping bamboo is a non-invasive screen that moves with the wind. And also, it's good to have them next to the wall to screen a little bit the bricks. Shade tolerant, it's also sun tolerant, so it gives us a lot of flexibility in where we can place this species. So let's rotate it a little bit from this point to this point right here. And let's scale it. So that clumping bamboo is this one right here. And we're gonna move it just touch out like that. Now we're gonna bring this one right here. If you know which tree is this one, leave it on the comment box. If you don't know, put a question mark, because this is an essential tree that you need to know if you are into landscape. So this one is an Japanese maple, an Acer palmatus. In Japan it's also well known as osakusaki, but in England we know it as Japanese maple. Our Japanese maple symbol is gonna be this one right here. And it's very interesting to plant this type of tree in our Zen garden because it gives us different colors through the year. The leaves change from green to this beautiful reddish color, which gives us a little bit of transition and also a sense of time in a garden, this one is gonna be placed just behind the water feature right here. We're gonna scale it a little bit more, something like that. And then we're gonna move it so the canopy is on the top of the water feature partially. Probably we need to make it slightly smaller and just move it a touch so the leaves are hanging on the top of the water feature. And for filling the rest of the garden area, we're gonna use a Japanese holly, Ilex crenata, which are gonna be low clipped mounds that guide the eye as soon as you step into the garden. We're gonna have a lot of these ones, and for doing this I'm gonna just scale the block a little bit, and we're gonna have them arrangements of 3. Then we will have another 3. We can position one more and another one spread across here. Also we're gonna put some of them next to the bamboo and the Pinus. We can move the bamboo a little bit more to the right, and we're gonna add another set of 2 right here. For doing this plant more interesting, I'm gonna scale and change the size of these ones so we have a little bit of variety. This one can be slightly smaller right here. Probably that's too small. Let's bring it back, something like that. Yes, and let's put another one. Then move this one and make this in the corner slightly bigger than the other 2. We want the leaves to drop a little bit to the gravel. It doesn't matter if they overlap a little bit. There we go. So the planting is looking nice. And for filling all those gaps, we're gonna have a Japanese grass that is called Hakonechloa macra. This grass symbolizes breath and movement. And for that, we're gonna use this block right here. So I'm gonna make a copy again. This is well placed along the edges and close grasses like that. I think I need to change the scale a little bit, so let's make them smaller. Also, I have this block that is already coming 3 of those grasses together, so we're gonna make a copy of this one as well. It's just the same species, but it already comes grouped in trees. You can put a little bit of the grasses here. This one, we can move them a little bit like that. Let's scale those ones a little bit more, something like that. Then we can bring separate grasses like this one right here. Probably this one can be bigger one. Let's move another one there, and let's move this one right here. Let's rotate it a little bit, slightly bigger. The leaves can drop a little bit to the path. And then let's copy this Japanese holly from this point up to here. And finally, for this part of the planter, we're gonna use a different type of grass. This grass is known as black mondo grass. In Latin is Ophiopogon planis capus. It's those kind of dark ribbons that go really well with the gravel. Stay tuned because in a minute we're gonna look at all of these examples in photographs. So for doing that black mondo grass, black mondo grass, we're gonna use this block right here, and it's gonna be these ones right here. So we're just gonna have 1, 2, and 3 species, and then these 2 we're gonna move them just slightly to the, and we're gonna scale this Ilex a little bit. So that covers the planting. And now we're gonna look at all of these species in photographs. These are the photographs for all the planting that we've been doing. The Pinus mugo is this one right here. The Acer palmatum is this one right here, which actually we need to make it slightly bigger. And then we have all the Fargesia bamboo, the clumping bamboo sitting on the back of the wall. All the Ilex crenata that are on here as a visual attraction, like cushions, different heights across the soft areas. We also have the first grass, Hakonechloa macra right here, and the Ophiopogon black grass on this part. So before we jump into adding more detail to this plant, I'm gonna bring these images here to my model space. And I'm gonna use this table from the template. Like I said before, feel free to download the template. I'm just gonna put it here close to the drawing where I'm gonna place all these images right here to start creating our plant image kettle. So I'm gonna create a new layer and I'm gonna base underscore images. I'm gonna change the color of this layer to white. Just make it current. And I'm gonna start bringing all these images. There is two ways you can do it. You basically can press xRef and bring the image from here, attach image. Then let's go to planting, select Pinus mugo, press OK. And then here we're gonna say that we want it from this endpoint up to here. Or the other way you can do it, if you prefer, is just to drag it from your Explorer. We can just select the bamboo, right, like this, or the Acer Platinum, press enter. I think that way is quicker, so we're gonna do it like that. Select the Fargesia to here, press enter, and select the Ilex crenata here up to here. And also let's select this Hakonechloa macra grass from this point to this point. I do apologize if I'm not pronouncing that Latin perfect, but if you have any suggestions, just leave it on the comments. And let's go back to the Explorer. Let's select the Ophiopogon planiscapus and let's drag it right here. Let's close this. So here we have our table with all of the species that we are using. I'm gonna move it just a little bit to the right and we're gonna type the names right here. To save our time, I already typed this into a file that I have here in my other screen and I'm gonna paste it here. I want to paste it without formatting. I'm gonna go and create a copy of this. Copy, 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 and copy. Then this one is gonna be the Japanese maple Acer palmatus. So I'm gonna copy right here that, paste special, paste without character formatting. This is really important because if you paste it like that, it comes with the format and source that you are bringing from. So if you don't want that to happen, just do what I'm doing at the moment. So when you're bringing the names, just double click on here, select everything and paste without character formatting. That will preserve the format of your CAD text. Because of the space, I think I'm gonna just put the common name on the top and then the Latin name can go on beneath it on the second line. Usually Latin names in planting drawings are always with italics, so make sure you do that as well if you want to get that professional touch. Select the Acer palmatus, change it to italics, the Japanese Holix, let's delete this hyphen from here, and let's select the Latin name and put it into italics. Now this one is going to be the, I just realized that this label goes here. This one is the bamboo, so let's bring the bamboo right here, paste the special without formatting. Let's put the Latin name on the second line, change it to italics. Then we want to bring the first grass, Japanese forest grass, and let's tweak this, paste the special, no formatting please, delete this, enter, change to italics. And our last one, which is the black mondo grass. Let's delete all of these, right click, paste the special, character without formatting, enter, put the Latin into italics. A Zen garden is about less, doing more. That's why we only choose 6 different species, because we want to preserve monumental sculpture like the pine. We also want color through the year, that's why we choose the Acer palmatum. But we also want a little bit of visual eye and contrast and texture. So keeping your Zen garden up to 6 species, maximum 10 is smart. Now we're gonna go for the specification of this plant. So the specification is gonna be quite simple. We're gonna say that the pine is gonna be a heavy standard tree. The grid is going to be 10 centimeters to 15 centimeters, and the height is going to be about 100 centimeters, 180 centimeters. Now for the Japanese maple, we're gonna use the same specification, but we're gonna make it slightly bigger. We want about 2 meters, and the grid can be between 15 and 20 centimeters. For the clumping bamboo, we don't need heavy standard because that only applies for trees and shrubs. So we're gonna say this is gonna come in a container full pot, and the height is gonna be between 200 and 300 centimeters. All these specifications will depend in where are you located and what's available on the nurseries. For the Japanese holly, it's gonna be container full pot boshi. And for the grasses, we are going to specify only that they come on a full pot. The other grass is also full pot, and the pot size is going to be 1 liter for these ones, 1 liter as well. The hollies are gonna come in 5 liter pots, as well as the clumping bamboo. And for the Japanese maple, that one comes as a root ball, so no pot needed. And the same applies the Pinus mugo. So we're progressing quite well. Now we have the specification and the species. Now it's time to count numbers. So we only require 1 Pinus mugo. We only want 1 Acer palmatus, and we will specify if 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, probably 6 bamboos to this job. For the Japanese holly, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select all of these ones, select similar, go to properties, and that's gonna count it for us. We have 19, but we also need to discount the one that is already here. So that means we need 18 number Japanese hollies. This number is gonna become 18. For the Japanese forest grass, I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna select, well, some of them comes in trees, so probably I will manually count them. We want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. So we are required 33 of those grasses. If I counted wrong, let me know in the comments. Sometimes it's a bit hard to do this while you're recording because you don't know if you make any mistake until you actually watch the video. So let's put those 33 grasses right here. And for the black mondo grass, we only want to specify 3 grasses. I am specifying numbers because I want these grasses to be planted on site manually, and also all this is going to be fulfilled with a different type of gravel, which actually we're going to do the hatch right now. So for doing that, I'm going to switch off this layer, press lay off, and let's switch off all the planting layer. Sorry, lay freeze, and let's freeze all this layer. I'm going to apply a hatch that is going to be gravel to all the rest of the area, similar to this. So press hatch, press here. Now let's match the properties from this gravel up to this gravel. Now type lay on again. Sorry, let's unfreeze the layer where the shrubs are, that is this one. Actually, I need to select all of them, and put them into the right layer, which is SW Software's plant symbols. So now if we switch off the layer, that should switch off. Yeah, that's good. Right, okay. I'm gonna increase the scale of this gravel a little bit to probably 10, because it's gonna be less dense on that area. Maybe, I think that looks alright. And I'm gonna change the color of that gravel to something that is slightly lighter, probably this gray right here. Okay. I'm gonna go back to my hard I want to go back to my hatch layer and I'm going to add a hatch to this water feature. To work only on the water feature, I'm going to select those two circles, right click and isolate the objects. And I'm going to hatch first here. This one is going to be a solid hatch that is going to represent the water. And I'm going to apply a transparency of 60%, so it's slightly more translucent. For this part of the rock, I'm going to do the same, but it's going to be a gray hatch like this one. Let's close the editor, right click, isolate, finish in isolation, so we have a little bit more of color. I'm going to paint the benches. For doing that, I'm going to press hatch again, and this one is going to be a solid hatch again, probably the same color but just solid, and I'm going to increase the transparency to 90%. Then I'm going to copy that hatch from this point up to this point. This is going to give us a little bit more of presentation, and I'm going to do the same with these stones. I'm going to use the same hatch that I used for the water feature, so select hatch again. This time I'm going to select the boundary, so I don't need to click anywhere, and it's going to be something like that. And I am going to match the properties from here up to here, so that gives us a little bit of transparency right there. Now I'm going to bring this block to the front, select the block, right click, and on draw order select bring to front, so the green line is more dominant than the hatch. And I think that covers this bit of the design. Now let's take this to the next level. Let's start adding some annotations and also the labels for the plants. So first I'm going to move this table a little bit to the right, somewhere here. For my template, I have these dimensions here, so I'm going to bring this dimension up to this point, and I'm going to type dimension style. I'm going to select my dimension Zen_1 to 50 because we're going to present this garden in 1 to 50 scale. Like I said before, if you want all these dimensions and annotations, feel free to download my template. So let's make it current, and I'm going to select this layer as current one. And I'm going to start by adding just very basic dimensions. One is going to be from the width of our garden, which is 6 meters. And then I'm going to add another one right here. Yes, I'm going to also add another annotation here, the width of the soft area. Another one for this entrance to the garden. And another one here for this gravel area. I think it's also worthwhile to add another one here to say width is this landing. And I'm going to add one more, probably from this point up to this point. This is just in conceptual design, so we don't need to add too much detail for now. And now we're gonna go to the labels. We're gonna start to add some annotations. So for doing that, I'm gonna use this leader that I have here, and I'm just gonna make a copy of it because I'm gonna need more copies. So let's start by naming our favorite tree in the garden, which is our Acer palmatus. I'm gonna put the label right there, and for the labels, I'm only gonna use the Latin name. So I'm gonna copy this Acer palmatum's name, and I'm gonna type it right here. Actually, I'm gonna copy it, not type. I'm gonna use the label to sit down a little bit more, like maybe the planting labels can go somewhere here. I'm gonna present all the labels on this part of the drawing. Probably it worth moving and deleting actually the dimensions from here and only getting them on the left part and on the south part of the garden. That will give us more freedom to add all the annotations on this part without overlapping the dimensions with the labels. I'm gonna create a copy of this one. Let's move it to the north with ortho, only 150 millimeters. And let's move this one off to the clumping bamboo right here. Let's put it somewhere there. I forgot to put here that this is gonna be one number Acer palmatus, and then this one is gonna be the Fargesia, so it's gonna be 18 number Fargesia. Let's delete the Acer from here. Now we're gonna do the same with the Pinus. So I'm gonna copy that label 150 millimeters to the north, and I'm gonna drag this one up to this point. Then let's drag this one right here, and let's move it down. This is gonna be one number. Let's put some space between those numbers, and manually you can space these so everything sits on the same place. This is just up to you guys if you want things to look neat and tidy. This one is gonna be called one number Pinus mugo. Pinus mugo. Now let's do the same with these ones. So for doing these three Ilexes, I'm gonna create a new layer that is gonna be called base underscore planting arrangement, and this one is gonna be the same blue color as we're using for the labels. And I'm just gonna quickly draw a line from this point, deactivate, first select that layer, and then draw a polyline from here, just roughly, deactivate the O snaps. I'm gonna put it right here like that. And then I'm gonna make a copy. I'm gonna move this one 200 millimeters because I need space there. Actually, I'm gonna put this one up because I need to insert these ones. And let's copy this one 200 millimeters. Let's bring this one right here, just roughly. Bring this one up to here. Activate the O snaps to get the extension. This is the Ilex crenata, so copy the Ilex crenata. Let's put it right here. And this is only Ilex crenata. So we need to label all these in the same process. And you already know which is the fundamentals of this. Basically, I'm just copying the labels. We'll do it one more time. Go 200. Then I'm gonna put this one right here. This one doesn't need a line because it's pretty obvious that these three are together. Let's extend this one right here. And these ones are our Hakonechloa macra grasses. So copy that name and paste it right here. I think I have now a space bringing this one from this point up to this point, and then move it. I can move this one this way. It looks better on the other side. Let's adjust this properly. Yeah, somewhere there. And what we could do here to save a little bit of time is we could potentially draw a line that connects. No, because if we draw a line that connects this tree with this tree, it's gonna overlap with this one, and we don't want that. So probably we need a similar example like this one right here. So let's make some space and move this 200 as well, 200 as well, 200 as well, and then this same label from here, we're gonna copy it 400 right there, and then we're gonna bring it from here somewhere there, a little bit more right here, and then adjust this one. Organizing your labels, it's sometimes a challenge process, and it's up to you how clear you want things to look. In my case, I like things to look aligned and well drawn. I'm gonna pause the video a little bit to keep adding all these labels for you, otherwise this is gonna be too long, but you will be able to see it on fast camera. I'm getting there. I just did these ones, and for doing those ones, I'm gonna move this dimension a little bit further here so all the labels can sit inside the dimension. And again, I'm gonna speed the camera for you to see the rest of this process. And there we go, guys. I have finally added all the labels to our planting. I think the drawing is starting to look more professional and more complete. we're gonna do a little bit of more final tweaks before we jump into the layout and present this. So we're gonna add hatch to our stone slabs. For doing this, I'm just gonna select the slab like that. I'm gonna add a solid color for now. This color is gonna be this cream right here, and I'm gonna add a transparency of 80%. And then I'm gonna do the same with the rest of the slabs. I'm gonna do it independently so I can control each hatch with each of the boundaries rather than having a single full hatch all across. And then I am going to tap match properties to match the properties from this hatch to this one, 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 and to this one. And there we go, guys. Our planting plant, it's getting better. We have a design there that represents our initial inspiration. And now we're going to jump into our layout and to see how we can present this. For this exercise, we're going to present it into an A3 sheet. Usually on landscape architecture, it's very common to use this size. A1 nowadays is too big for printing, so this is ideal for sending quick and compact as a PDF format, and also for printing it and look at it in your hands. So we have this template right here. I'm gonna create a new layer that is gonna be called BP Viewport Invisible, and I want invisible, yeah. And this color is gonna be red because I don't want that to be printed. I want to cancel that it prints. And with this one selected, I am going to manually match the properties to this one. So this viewport is already right here, and I am going to put this into 150 scale. For putting this into scale, because we're using millimeters, we need to double click inside the viewport, press Z for zoom, and then we're gonna type 1 divided by 50 XP. That's gonna give us a 1:50 scale. And then I'm gonna position this a little bit. I wanna pan it a little bit to somewhere right here. And now I'm going to lock my viewport so it doesn't move anymore. For doing that, I'm gonna go to layout, lock, then lock the viewport right here. Then I'm gonna go back to model space and move this a little bit to the left and then a little bit down, probably somewhere here. So we have a bit of a good composition across our layout. And now we're gonna key some of the key features of the garden on this part. So I'm gonna go back to model space, and from my same layout I have these boxes right here that says key and text. So I'm gonna bring these ones, I'm gonna make a copy, switch on the O snaps from this point, switch off ortho, and I'd want them to be somewhere right here. Let's see how this presents in here. Probably we can move them a little bit, press ortho to move it a little bit up, and then we have them there. And what we're going to do here is we're gonna put the key features of the garden into here with a very brief description. That will give us more professionality, and it's gonna be easy to understand for anyone that is looking at this drawing to see what's there. So we're gonna start with the water feature, and for doing that I'm gonna just copy the water feature as it is, including this bit right here. Select it all, copy. I'm gonna bring the water feature right here. As you can see, it doesn't fit, which is absolutely fine. We're gonna just put it there. Then we're gonna make a copy of these two hatches here. Then we're gonna delete those hatches, and I'm gonna trim all the bits that you cannot see inside that box. This here, and then we're gonna delete all of that. And then we're gonna press hatch again, and I'm going to hatch back this bit, this bit, this bit, and then with another hatch, this bit, this bit, and this bit. And then I am going to match the properties from the water to this bit, and then I'm gonna match the properties from the outer edge of the water feature to here. So that's gonna give us in the layout view a sense of what's that, but also you can directly say, all right, that water feature is there. Okay, so the next step that we are going to do is the slabs. But before doing that, we're gonna change this text to water feature. Water feature. Then I think we can move this text closer to the key, probably somewhere there to see it closer. Then we're gonna, and this one as well, probably only one will fit. Press ortho and deactivate the ortho, then you have the stone right there. And because this hatch is linked to the three shapes, we will need to basically do it again. Delete that, press hatch, click inside here, and then copy the properties, rock hatch to here. And this is gonna be called Decorative Stones. And we're gonna take the lantern, which actually needs a little bit more of work. So before we bring the lantern here, I'm gonna double click and open the block, and I'm gonna apply some basic hatches all across this inside. So let's change that to solid, and let's get probably let's go for more colors, something like, doesn't look right, probably let's get this brown right here, and let's change the transparency and opacity to 50%. Now let's click hatch again and use the same hatch. Let's quickly isolate two objects, so isolate height objects and hatch here, 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 and here, and let's apply the same hatch to this point. Now right click, isolate, end object isolation, and let's change, I think that looks alright, but let's change the transparency of that to 80 so it's more translucent, and click OK. Save the hatch so it's looking better, and we're gonna bring that lantern block from here up to here. It doesn't fit, but we can cheat a little bit and make it just a teeny smaller. Nobody's gonna notice that. Make it, in reality, the objects should always be the same size in the legend than in the plan, but for this case it's gonna be alright. It's pretty obvious that that represents the lantern because we don't have any other lantern. And we're also gonna bring the benches, so let's select one of the benches, copy it and bring it here. This case I'm gonna trim it, so, and we're gonna just copy the hatch from here up to here, press trim all these lines, trim that, delete that, then hatch here, hatch here, hatch here, hatch here, and then just match the properties to here. We forgot to label this, so this is gonna be called lantern, this is gonna be called seats. Finally, we are going to add the full hatch of our main surface, which is this one right here, and we're gonna match the properties from here to that, and we're gonna roll it, gravel, roll it, gravel. That's it. Now save the drawing, go back to here, and before we PDF, I'm gonna do some final touches just to get that we can from this drawing. So I'm gonna go back to model space, to the boundary. I'm gonna select the boundary, and I'm gonna type properties, and I'm gonna add a global width of 10 millimeters, probably 150. No, that's too much. 30. That is gonna give us a thick line all around. And also I'm gonna do the same to edge between the gravel soft areas. I'm gonna first join all that polyline into a single polyline. I don't know why this popped up. Let's bring it back to place. And all this edge and this edge are also going to have 30. Yeah, that looks good. I'm going to change the color to a lighter gray, probably something like that. So that gives us the sense that it's the transition between the soft area and the hard area. This one, I'm gonna bring it to here. Yeah, and this one as well. Oh, I think this moved, so somehow this managed to move, but let's just put it back into, let's adjust those. And there we go, guys. We have finalized our Zen garden in an A3 sheet. Let's PDF to this to see how it looks. Probably I need to reduce the thickness of this. This is looking very thick, so let's bring that to 5, 10, and let's PDF. So save the drawing, print. Here we're gonna select maximum, we're gonna activate plot transparency, and we're gonna select drawing to PDF. This is already on scale, and all this red line is in a not printable layer. Before doing that, we're gonna add one last thing. I think it's worth to bring source of inspiration right here. So let's align it just right there. Let's scale it, and let's add a title that says indicative visualization. There we go, save, go back to the sheet, and there we go, guys. I think it's looking good. Let's print our first draft. Okay, I want to put it on the desktop on my YouTube shortcut, and there we go, guys. Here's our final result. Let me know what you think on the comment box. Was this process helpful for you? In this tutorial, we have been learning how to draft from scratch all of our Zen garden inspired by this indicative visualization, from defining the hard areas and the soft areas. Then we jumped into establish where all the key features of the garden, like the lantern, the seeds, and the water feature will sit. And after that, we dive into actually looking at all the planting and the specification and how to arrange it and how we need to put this type of planting in those places. Now is your time to open AutoCAD and start drafting your own Zen gardens, start putting these skills into practice. I hope you have learned lots of things from planting and CAD design. Guys, it's been a pleasure to guide you through this process. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. If you like it, please give me a comment, give me a thumbs up. It really means a lot to me.